Hello, and welcome back to Fedora Fiction Podcast YouTube editions. If you've been following along, you know we've been reading from Throwback Book 1, Ares Triumphant. We are on Chapter 6, which is called The Starfish. O'Shea was enjoying a rare but delicious nap at his desk. He sat with his high-back chair rocked back and his feet propped on his desk. He heard Nordstrom saying his name repeatedly, but he resisted waking, wanting to savor this respite just a little longer. "Dr. O'Shea," she said in his ear. "Dr. O'Shea." "Just a few more minutes, Lena," he murmured drowsily. "I'm really tired." "Adam!" she fairly barked. His eyes flew open, and he found himself looking at the ceiling of the airlock through the lens of the EVA helmet. His head was pounding. He tried to sit up, but was dissuaded by spasms of pain shooting from his legs up his back to his neck. He lay back and tried to relax. "Adam?" Lena's voice was still in his ear. "Are you conscious?" "Barely," he replied, "but I don't seem to be able to move." "What? Are you sure?" Lena's voice asked, sounding very alarmed. "Well," he flexed his toes experimentally. "I can move my toes." "Oh, that's good," the voice observed, relief creeping into it. "Try your arms." "Those work," O'Shea reported. He raised one knee and felt pangs of pain in his lower back and hip. He raised the other with similar, if more intense, results. He tried to sit up and fell back, gasping at the pain. "It must be my back," he gasped. "I can't sit up without a lot of pain." "You can't stay on the floor of the airlock," the voice said with frustrated tones. "I can't do anything for you there." "Why not? Can't you come help me?" "No," the voice was almost shrill with distress. "I can't do anything until you get into the medical bunk." O'Shea's head cleared, and he realized he was talking to Lima, not Lena. "No," he said grimly, "of course you can't." He reached up with both his arms and pulled the helmet off and tossed it aside. Next, he deactivated the seal in the front of the suit so he could open it and get his arms out. From there, he gingerly worked the EVA suit off, stopping frequently to quiet the spasms in his back. At one point, he found himself almost passing out and took an especially long break. He had no idea how long it took and didn't want to know, but he finally got the suit down past his knees and was able to work his legs out of it. As if the situation was not urgent enough, his bladder was telling him it required emptying and his belly was rumbling. He rolled over onto his stomach and was able to raise himself onto his hands and knees with minimal pain. He crawled slowly into the habitat into the toilet. "What are you doing?" Lima asked in irritated alarm. "That's not the medical bunk." "Just need to feed the neutral rumen," O'Shea assured her. He crawled into the toilet area and, bracing on the walls there, managed to raise himself painfully to his feet. The spasms were almost constant in this position, but bearable. He positioned himself over the toilet and gratefully relieved that one bit of tension. Supporting himself on walls and furnishings like a cruising toddler, he made his way to the medical bunk and eased himself into it. Automatic arms placed sensors on his head and torso as a blue light scanned him from head to toe. "No broken bones," Lima announced clinically, "but there is marked tissue swelling in the lumbar back, coxofemoral joints, and shoulders, to say nothing of the multiple contusions all over the body and ischemia in your muscles." "Are you sure there's no intracranial bleeding?" O'Shea asked. "My head is killing me." The blue light made a second pass over his head. "I see no evidence of intracranial hemorrhage," Lima assured him. "Your headache may be due to the lingering effects of hypoxia and the bends from when your suit depressurized. I'll administer some pain medication." One of the automatic arms placed a face mask and placed it over O'Shea's nose and mouth. He felt a puff of something inside the mask and very quickly felt himself relax and grow drowsy. "What did you give me?" He was barely able to mumble before he fell asleep. He awoke abruptly from a dream where the alarm on the EVA suit was screaming in his ear. The habitat, however, was silent except for the faint humming of the electronics that were everywhere. His memory of the past 12 hours was vague and dreamlike, but it included that of painful spasms. He once again flexed his arm and legs, which were sore but not unduly painful. He gingerly tried to sit up and found he could do so without major discomfort. How do you feel? Lima's disembodied voice asked. Solicitously, like I was hit by a high-capacity transport, he replied groggily and getting to his feet. I would think that you would have suffered much greater trauma if that were the case, Lima observed. What was the case? O'Shea asked as he walked slowly into the kitchen area to prepare some food. I have a vague memory of flying over the habitat. That you did, Lima confirmed. It seems we should have aborted the auto-assembly protocol as well as cut the power to the unit. We apparently charged the backup batteries when we supplied power, and when you restored the connection, the protocol continued under battery power. And I got thrown over the habitat, O'Shea recalled grimly. He pulled a meal out of the rehydration unit. How did you get me back inside? I don't remember. You were unconscious from hypoxia, Lima replied. I was forced to use the cargo drone to get you inside. The cargo drone? Well, that explains a lot of the bruising. Those things don't exactly have a delicate touch. I assumed you would prefer bruising to dying, Lima replied defensively. You assumed correctly. Well done. He ate his rehydrated meal with the alacrity of the ravenous. How did the rest of the assembly go? He asked when he was finished. Please tell me there were no other problems. As you wish. There were no other problems. O'Shea drew a deep, patient breath as he prepared another cup of freeze-dried coffee. Are you saying that because I asked you to, or because there were no other problems? Both. The unit is up, and atmospheric pressure is within specified parameters, but it's still very cold in there. I would suggest waiting another 24 hours before entering. Besides, she continued severely, you need more rest before resuming work. Your memory loss indicates you have not made a complete recovery. Yes, doctor, O'Shea replied wryly. Can I at least peruse the specs on the AT? Where is that AT anyway? I had the cargo drone place it in the airlock of the magnetic field unit, Lima replied. As you asked, please limit your perusing to 30-minute sessions. You suffered the bends out there, and the information from the medical files indicates you need more time to heal. Boy, don't you sound like the real Lena, he said. As he said this, O'Shea was struck by a sudden sense of loss and grief, so much he had to sit down abruptly as the tears erupted from his eyes. Dr. O'Shea, Lima asked in a concerned tone, are you in pain? Do you need more medication? O'Shea made an attempt to compose himself. No, he answered hoarsely after a few moments. But you're right. I'm not myself yet, he admitted wanly. I need to rest. He drew another breath and stood to walk into the bunk room. Before climbing into bed, he looked at the other bunks in the room. He had hoped to create a safe haven on Mars for himself, Lena, Anna, and what was left of Earth's biodiversity. A haven safe from the politics, the overwhelming population, and the increasingly fierce storms that raged with ever-growing frequency. He had been too late to save his siblings and their families, and all because of a simple mechanical defect, he was 3,000 years too late to save Lena and Anna. For all he knew, neither the organisms he had tried to save nor the planet he had saved them for existed. He climbed into bed wondering if it wouldn't have been better if he had died out in the ice cavern or just never woken up in the first place. Just what, beyond bare survival, was he going to accomplish now? He lay in bed for 2 days, arising only to eat a meal or two and to feed the neutral rumen. He parried Lima's concerned queries by asking her to play soft music or soothing environmental sounds. It was on the second day that he asked her to play some music by Beethoven, as it was the first composer to come to his mind. She played the Ninth Symphony, whose last movements set a poem, Ode an die Freude, to music. O'Shea recalled his grandfather, who favored Beethoven's music, telling him that the title translated as Ode to Joy. His grandfather could sing the last movement in the original German and explain to his grandson that the poem extolled joy as a unifying force that united people, nature, and all of what used to be called creation. As he lay listening, O'Shea recalled that his grandfather had found his joy in communing with a rapidly disappearing natural world. O'Shea had spent many days as a boy in his grandfather's agricultural preserve, and it was his grandfather's explanation of a cow's digestive system that had inspired O'Shea's invention of the Nutra-Rumen. His grandfather had viewed the invention with a mixture of admiration and sadness. Brilliant, he said of the science behind it, logical and efficient. Another in the many steps humankind has taken away from its roots in nature. Maybe that's the next step in the evolution of man, he added, regret and resignation in his voice, from a creature of the natural world to that of a technological one. I'm glad I won't live to see it. O'Shea recalled that as a teenager, he had questioned his grandfather's stubborn refusal to sell his land when doing so would bring him immense wealth. You can't stop the development of farmland by yourself, he told his grandfather. What difference is one farm going to make anyway? I heard a story once as a young man, his grandfather replied. A woman took a walk on a beach after a terrible storm and came upon thousands of starfish that had been washed up in the high surf. The starfish were trying to crawl back into the ocean, but they could not move very quickly, and the rising sun was hot, and soon the animals would be killed by dehydration. The woman was horrified that so many of these beautiful and harmless creatures would die. She felt helpless and overwhelmed by the sheer numbers. She looked down and saw one feebly moving toward the ocean. She picked it up and threw it into the surf. She picked up another and another and another and threw them into the ocean. She knew she could not save them all, he had said, but she was determined to save as many as she could. His grandfather paused a moment. This farm is my starfish. The music ended, and O'Shea got up and headed to the shower. Lima, he asked, could you please get the schematics for the AT units up for me? Of course. I take it you are feeling better? Yes, thank you. Is the mag field unit warmed up? It's been within specified parameters for 36 hours. Good, O'Shea said as he entered the shower. It's time to save some starfish. Starfish? Lima had the patience to wait until after he was out of the shower. What? Oh, chuckled. It's a long story, but the upshot is you better take some action than lament the hopelessness of your situation. Is our situation hopeless? Only in terms of our original goals, O'Shea replied, sitting at the kitchen table and opening a tablet. We need to come up with some new goals. Now, he said thoughtfully, looking at the tablet, how would I combine the AT100 and the 101? By putting the battery array in the circuit between the generator and motor, obviously. Yes, O'Shea agreed patiently, but how would I place them in the chassis? I need to know where all the parts are before I can fix them. Do you plan to repair the hydrogen generator on the transport? If it needs it, why? They'll need a way to replenish the fuel supply for the hydrogen generator then. The mag field unit has almost doubled the power demand. And we haven't been able to make more fuel because we're not on the surface to capture solar radiation, O'Shea said, nodding. I take it the solar array wasn't deployed then. No, what would be the point? How much fuel do we have left? At the current rate of consumption, less than 240 hours. We'd better reduce the rate of consumption then. Reduce the ambient temperature 3 degrees and make sure the lights are out in the mag fuel unit. They were never on, Lima reported indignantly. Reducing temperature should get us another 24 hours. Is that all? Reduce the lighting here. The habitat grew dim. That will get us another 2 hours, Lima reported. The lights are very efficient. Okay, O'Shea sighed resignedly, dropped the ambient temperature to 5 degrees centigrade. That adds another 36 hours, Lima reported. So I have 13 days to repair the transport, if it's reparable, and get the solar array off the habitat and to the surface. All without getting myself killed. Yes. Well, O'Shea observed grimly, it looks like I'm the starfish. Well, that ends chapter 6. Just a reminder that all the books published by Fedora Fiction Press are available at amazon.com/author/Tom Goss. I'm Tom Goss. Thank you for listening.